Mike Watson last updated 1626, December 5, 2017. A record amount of logs are passing through Port Taranaki. Port Taranaki is basking in an early summer haze as strong international prices push record amounts of logs through for export. The so-called wall of wood shows no sign of tumbling as increasing numbers of export logs are trucked in and shipped out of the West Coast port. The growth trend is forecast to continue as strong international market conditions boost trade and business extending to become year-round instead of seasonal, Port Taranaki Chief Executive Guy Roper said. Export logs, bound for Asia, about to unloaded at Port Taranaki. Favorable market conditions, low inventory levels in China, and large numbers of harvest-ready trees in the port's catchment area of Taranaki, King Country and Wanganui had helped push through record numbers of logs in the past 12 months. Read more. Exports to China, a key driver of stable prices in regional log market. Forestry workers gearing up for busy few years in Taranaki as sections mature. Buoyant forestry industry plugging dairy's economic dip to forestry industry was enjoying a rise in trade as greater urbanization in China resulted in greater demand for wood for housing and infrastructure, Roper said. Port Taranaki are stacking logs higher to meet export demand. Export opportunities were also opening up in India, Korea and Japan, creating demand for New Zealand logs. New Zealand had a wall of wood at the moment, as a lot of planting in the 1980s and 90s was now reaching harvest maturity, he said. Growth in the forestry business is forecast to continue for the next 710 years, followed by a gap of supply due to low levels of planting in the early 2000s, Roper said. A record amount of logs are passing through Port Taranaki. Log exports from the port in 20,162,017 reached 486,000 jas, a 36% increase, and a 29% rise in log revenue, he said. In comparison, 323,000 jas passed across Port Taranaki's wharves in 20,122,013 jas is the Japanese agricultural standard measurement for cubic meters of logs, with 1 jas roughly equal to 1 ton. Port Taranaki planned more to develop more land for log storage. A record amount of logs equaling 77,000 jas was exported through Port Taranaki in October, while in November the company handled the most logs for export ever in any one week with 19,000 jas, Roper said. In November the company more than doubled the amount of logs exported with 65,000 jas, compared to November 2016 when 30,000 jas was handled. Between July and November this year, 270,000 jas of logs was exported from the port, compared with 149,000 jas for the same period in 2016. Port Taranaki is increasing log storage facilities as record tonnage levels are exported. The increase in the port's export log trade had been reflected by favorable market conditions in the last 5 years. In November 2012, 25,000 jas of logs was exported, with 141,000 jas exported between July and November 2012, Roper said. The market conditions are expected to continue over the next year and there was scope for more throughput of logs at Port Taranaki. Logs are being stacked higher and land developed for efficient storage to cope with the increase, he said. Port Taranaki had not been as congested as other ports and had been able to accommodate log vessels without any significant delay, with the capacity for 2 vessels on Blythe Wharf, he said. This is great news for our business, the customers that use the port and the Taranaki region. The port is an important facility for Taranaki and utilizing it to the best of its capabilities is vital for the overall growth and prosperity of the region. We need to remain aware of that and plan accordingly. Log harvest